think the honorable thing for our species to do is deny our programming. Stop reproducing. Walk hand in hand into extinction. One last midnight, brothers and sisters opting out of a raw deal.
Do not trust any friends or family members. I repeat, do not trust friends.
And we are live.
That's the thing is, like, you probably don't have a waveform or whatever that gives us the assurance that we're live, so we're not going to know. It's kind of like Schrodinger's podcast for a little bit, I think.
No, it's not. It's got like a wobble.
Oh,
it does a wobble.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's very
I'm watching
That's
that wobble
what
in real time.
Are we talking about the same thing?
No, as long as something's wobbling, it lets me know that the machine is registering our voice. Because
It sure as shit is.
Yeah, because like if it was muted, we wouldn't know. You have a gigantic rabbit.
Yeah, I do. Welcome to the home where I actually have a giant rabbit named Oreo. It got rescued and it's fat. It's just so big. It's maybe the size of a medium-sized dog.
Yeah, it's sitting beside us. It looks like it's taking a rabbit shit, but it also looks like it's just chewing on plastic indiscriminately.
It is.
You do need to see it in person to get this full scale of it, though.
It's big.
It's
yeah,
shocking.
it's a big, like
We
cat-sized thing.
I like that we watched it lying down and eating food earlier today. I feel like that's...
There's only one way to get, if you want to really gain rabbit weight, you would lay down to eat.
Yeah, no burning of carbs while you're eating. Just fucking relax, chill out.
We should have done
all
that.
food. Yeah,
Minimum
earlier
effort.
today. Yeah, because we ate as well too, and we didn't learn from Oreo. I always want to call it Mr. Bun Buns, even though it's a girl and it has a completely different name. But Mr. Bun Buns is such a fabulous rabbit.
True. We put down some calories today.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we're at the Extinction Agenda with live. Yeah,
Out of New York.
Yeah. Ooh, live from New York. Yeah, I don't think so.
No, we're not in New York.
No.
We're back still in
No,
Canada.
no, it's a little grimier than New York.
Yeah, it is. Southern Ontario is... I mean, you probably already just said it one day that where we were live from last week, maybe.
Oh, I don't think so. Or if I did, it got cut
I don't think
out.
it matters.
I don't like to out us and where we are physically. Our fans are just
Ravenous.
legion. Yeah, just
Legion.
yeah, just we really want a piece of us, and I don't really blame them. Particularly Chris, and James and me, James. I don't know why you're listening to this if you don't know who we are, but you might just be a Grant Morrison fan. Maybe they really like new X-Men.
Could be.
but treat yourself to the first episode at least.
Yes, just do that. Yeah, this one's live. Obviously, we've said that a couple times, but we're sort of the audio. We're doing something a little different. We did some tests. I gave Chris the old reach around. It seemed to have been going okay.
It was going real well.
Yeah,
It's going good.
it was good stuff. And yeah, we got all right. So today we're continuing the Grant Morrison's new X-Men thing. We're doing issues 117 to 121, and these came out. They're released September 2001 to January 2002. So these are still 9/11 comics. These are post 9/11 comics at this point. But the cover dated October 2001 and February to 2002. We got Van Skeever, we got Igor Corday, and we got Frank Quitely, and we can talk more about the specific visual artists as we go forward. What do you guys think of this? So basically, for anyone who's fallen around, we're basically doing the issues up until the silent issue, Psychic Rescue in Progress. So I don't know. Rereading these things, how'd you feel about it?
I don't know. I always like these. This initial little run with Grant Morrison and Quitely to start. This was groundbreaking stuff in the beginning. We talked about that. I can't remember the last time we talked about it. We talked about that Cyclops intro. The sort of we can stop doing the same old thing. Grant Morrison opening. And then going into this Cassandra Nova arc, which, if anyone's seen the new Deadpool and Wolverine, got a little Cassandra Nova character theft to go into their movie as well, if you're not familiar with the character. But these are, I don't know, these are violent and grotesque and have kind of a different angle that people weren't expecting. So.
Yeah, but we're going into like Van Skeever territory at this point, and it's now we're leveling out. We've already had like the big like, blah, and so now we gotta build the world some more. You know, like we've had the opening gambit.
I was really surprised by how quickly the story gets into discovering that Cassandra is really in Xavier's body. Some of the speed with which things, and like how quickly Johnny Sublime is dealt with. At least I'm sure there's more to come from the U-Men, but Grant just has a breakneck pace. He never slows down to like really like luxuriate in an idea. It's just sort of like, oh no, I've got so much more to cram in here.
Yeah, and it's fun. It was exciting. Like, it's tough to have the same excitement as when it first came out. Like, you know, James, you've many times talked about getting Van Skeevered. I wonder, like, do you still feel that way about getting Van Skeevered nowadays?
No, Van Skeever's art was a lot nicer this time around, a lot more palatable for me, and for whatever reason I was able to, on the onset, I think I was just so offended that Frank Quitely wasn't going to do the complete run with him, that it was just sort of really jarring to go into him. But the effort and the and his style was just really nice this time around. If you just sort of accept it, just let the change wash over you, and the horrible beating that the Beast takes at the end, and then this is one like for whatever reason. Even though Emma is not really included as a part of the team, all of a sudden she's just like a full-on X-Man.
Yeah, I think the so last time we talked, we did that we did the New X-Men Annual #1. So I think the events of New X-Men Annual #1 take place before this issue 117. That still doesn't make any sense though to me, and I hope to kind of unpack that later, because in that they're talking about the X Corporation. He's opened up. Charlie's revealed that we're all mutants, and he's opened up these corporate offices all over the world. And it doesn't feel like that much time has passed here, but it does make sense of something. Because the previous issue, there was an entire genocide of a mutant population of millions and millions of people, and what are the children doing in the high school? Ha 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 ha! You know, like it's just. People are protesting outside or whatever. It's just like the solemnity and grace that a group of people gets after a tragedy is not present here. And so I have to imagine that phase is just kind of washed over. And maybe that speaks to what you were talking about, Chris. That Grant works at that breakneck pace, and he's like, well. But I do think though that he does do. A memorial to Genosha later, but much later, and it just feels so weird and tacked on. So yeah, the tone seems all wrong, and particularly like again thinking of this as a post 9/11 comic. I know why he's trying to make it normal to an extent here, but it just like it does seem strange. But.
It did seem a little bit like the apocalypse was disregarded.
Yeah.
To end the like, and that was like something I think I spoke to back when we originally read these way back when they first came out, was that it felt like Grant Morrison's telling a different story when he has Quitely than when he doesn't.
Yeah,
and I don't know if that's the case, if this would have just run like this with him, but it feels like there was alt material for Van Skeever.
Yeah, it's tough to tell because, like, so this opens up with this image of the Beast, and he's jumping. It's one of those full page spreads, and it's similar to the opening where there's like an instruction here with respect to like growing up, fly, you know, like evolve, become something different. But it's very, it's got the picture. What's this kid's called? Beak.
Yeah, that's Beak.
What's his real name? Doesn't really matter. He's like Dutch or something. Yeah, we've had enough of the Dutch today. That's a reference to a movie we were watching. That's not Dutch racism. Anyway, it's very organic. Like there's a lot of like trees and snow and things, and I don't think Quitely would have. I don't know what Quitely would have done with it. It would have been much more sparse. This feels more. Van Skeever's not a naturalist by any stretch, but he wants to he has more lines on the page, like a lot more lines on the page, and his forest is going to have like there's going to be bark and a real attention to bark and terrain and that kind of thing. So it does feel different.
That's Barnell, also, by the way.
Yeah, there we go, Barnell. Yeah, and he's being chased by Hank McCoy, and it kind of opens up a little nice. Hank's doing his teacher thing, and Beaks, like a misfit. We're getting back to the X-Men as misfits, and Beak is kind of like a Cyclops, only for the modern age. He doesn't have like wowie superpowers, and I'm reminded of one of the reasons Chuck Dixon doesn't like the X-Men is because he thinks that they're a bunch of whiners. Like how cool would it be to be able to shoot beams from your eyes, or to be able to fly, or have telepathic powers? And like he's like, what's the problem with these people? Like, why are they whining? Like what's the issue? But with Beak, I don't know. That seems like his whining is a lot more. If we're going to talk about social injustice as whining,
yeah, exactly. That's like so Chuck Dixon.
yeah. Maybe that makes more sense. And he's a lot more punk. Like I love that he's wearing a Revolted in Cox shirt. Later on, that's going to get referenced by Quietly on one of the covers. He has, I think he draws Van Skeever like in the. Well, anyway, we'll show it later. But anyway, so he's a little punk, and he's got a chain around his neck. He's got a little hoodie, a little more alternative for the early 2000s.
I like that Beast has that sort of like affinity for this kid too, and you can tell that's because, like him, he's suffered this body mutation. So
right.
Beast seems to be really invested in helping him out, leveling him up.
Yeah, Beast is another one who, like, early on, he wasn't really a misfit. He was he was always a genius. I mean, he was a football
star athlete.
Yeah. It's kind of cheating in retrospect. And the reason there's a couple reasons he turned into the Beast. We've talked about it before. They turned him into like a monster creature because suddenly the Comics Code allowed werewolves, or it was a way to get around the Comics Code to have werewolves. So there's the meta reason, and then the other reason was that like he was fucking around with his own mutation. Brought it on yourself, Hank. Sorry.
Yeah, Grant also did that secondary mutation with Beast, or that's what he toys with a lot of that theme through this book. And this book too does a lot of it starts introducing Jean and Wolverine's relationship, as well as Cyclops and Emma's, as like sort of they get springboarded into their own dynamics right away, straight through this issue.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I didn't think about the Scott and Emma thing. Although it's chaste, it's distant, but you feel that there's
veiled, but it's like it's starting. It's like blossoming. Both of them sort of like in sort of like inappropriate sideways. Yeah.
So when we get the school, we get a lot of students. That's nice to see because the school for gifted youngsters is usually like just something that's said. And in this case, like it's a school full of different kids. And they clearly all have different types of powers and mutations and that kind of thing. Some of them quite grotesque, some of them a little weird, some of them pass as normal. And then, like we said, there's the protest outside. God hates mutants. And this is the...
Westboro Baptist Church.
Yeah. Kind of evoking that kind of thing. Chris, I don't think that... How did you feel about Van Skeever? Did we already?
I don't have much more to add per se. Like other than like I didn't really know who he was until we started digging into the Comic Skate stuff.
For the
Ed Piscor episode, and then I knew a lot about his opinions and his unrepentant, like woe is me bullshit. It's kind of ironic.
Yeah, speaking of whiners.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, speaking of whiners. The art's good. Like from a pure technical standpoint, though, it is good. I think I agree with you guys. And like the scenes in the forest where Jean comes up on Logan, and there's that. I guess she's like used a deer to like hijacked a deer to find him out or something like that.
I didn't take it that way, but that's interesting. Yeah. Neat.
Yeah, there's like a sense of place.
Yeah, I didn't take it that way, but I am now.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah. Here's how I took it. Okay, so he's meditating and like he's so calm that even the deer, like he's a peaceful, and it's meant to like be a contrast between like the the fucking killer that he is, you know.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I like that more. Yeah.
I think maybe it works both ways. One of the things I like about Van Skeever as well is that his characters, I know what their emotional states are. And I don't think that's always the case with Quitely. I think we have some complaints about Quitely this round. He remains exceptional, but I think some of the flaws come through in some of these stories. Even though these figures are wonky, these Van Skeever figures are very wonky. You can tell what they're thinking. They have an interiority.
Yeah, there's an inconsistency that was like something that you don't see with Quitely, which probably is part of the jarring thing when you switch from Quitely to Van Skeever.
Mm-hmm.
In Van Skeever's figures, there's like he's on point, and then the next book they could all look completely different. The next panel they could look completely different, and there's like sort of, like you say, there's a wonkiness to them. Like they're like a little wobbly at times.
And he's working overtime. Like, this is very early in his career. I forget if he was even doing books before this. No, I think he did The Flash or something. He did like something with, I'm going to say Jeff Johns. I might be wrong about that. But this is the big time for him, and he's working as hard as he can. Now, this one issue 117, it's got one inker, and Danger Zone, guys. Issue 118, 3 inkers. And then Igor Corday comes in. And, I might as well say now that Igor Corday is a machine, and it works, I think, well in these issues that we're going to be reading. But they've tapped him because he could produce an entire comic worth of pages within 3 weeks or something like that. And later on, when there's the time crunch and they're on a 2-week deadline, he's like, okay, boom, he bangs it out for them. So anyway, Van Skeever's putting a lot of marks on the page, and I think obviously this is what's slowing him down. Like Wolverine's hair in this image, that's an afternoon. You know, all that stubble, all those individual lines and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him, but actually I do. I have no problem with that. Draw better, Ethan. We're also getting into some of the major themes of sort of the Invisibles bad vibes kind of thing, where Beast, he's very excited, he's very up, he's going on a date with Trish Tibley or whatever her name is, and so she breaks up with him like via voice message or something like that, because the news is like talking about bestiality, and like she's frightened of his new animalistic appearance. I call bullshit on that though, because she was banging him when he like looked the other way.
Yeah.
Like there's actually he looked a bit scarier before. Now he just looks like a cat. But yeah, we're getting into depression territory. We're getting into like these oppressive and depressive emotional complexes, which are important to this storyline.
Yeah, so he kind of stays home and just instead of going on his date, like decides to get to the bottom of Cassandra Nova, outs her very quickly. Yeah.
I guess we'll pause on that for a second, because we'll get back to the Jean and Wolverine flirtation, which continues throughout this. Like later on when Wolverine is on his way to go get the new Angel, he's on the motorbike and Jean's talking to him, and he's like, stay out of my personal fantasies or whatever, you know, like there's a sense that she's trying really hard to seduce him. And I like the fact that he's the one resistant in this instance. Grant Morrison's Wolverine, like he opens up, he's doing the meditating. And I even like the touch, like he says Zazen meditation, and that's a specifically Japanese Buddhist version of meditation. That's a nice touch for someone who's like so connected to the samurai and Japanese culture and that sort of thing. And yeah, he's restrained, but then later on, when he finds the U-men trying to dissect Angel, like I went red for a bit.
That's such a great moment.
Sons of a bitch,
Yeah.
So like the killer is still absolutely there. Get out of my mind for a while, Genie. But yeah, this is much more contemplative Wolverine than I think. It's not Larry Hama's Wolverine, that's for sure. And he's much taller.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that actually. Yeah. He's more of a Hugh Jackman Wolverine. Whenever he's a bigger guy.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like when you think about what Wolverine's supposed to look like. We were joking about this earlier. Like Wolverine. Well, because he shows up in Wolverine Deadpool you were telling me.
Yeah, they do. They make a gag at the comic book accurate Wolverine, and he basically has to jump off of a bar stool because he's so fucking short, and he's just like completely covered in hair, and he's ludicrous, and it's very easy for Ryan Reynolds to poke fun at him. It's just a real bad gag reel, and that's really like. That can't happen. Like you could have toyed with that in the 70s, which they did a little bit, but like really, even when Jim Lee started drawing him, that's not what you were dealing with aesthetically when you're looking at Wolverine. That's gone.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Get that shit out of here. It's stupid. Anybody that wants it, fuck you.
Yeah, well, and particularly if you want like the Scott Jean love triangle, like why is Jean attracted to women tend not to be attracted to shorter guys than themselves. Tends to be the case. Jeannie, I don't think she, I think Scott's taller than her. I think anyway.
Try for a minute to imagine to yourself a 4 foot, 250-pound steel skeleton midget. That's fucking ridiculous. It's insane, and if anybody illustrated it or tabled it in a movie, it would be fucking sick.
Yeah, we kind of mode flap, kind of a flop, I think.
Yeah,
not a fan favorite.
You want to fucking gross me out and have like a weird pervert thing going on? Go for it. But...
Yeah, but then that's more of a Howard the Duck story, I think. So Jean goes up to see Wolverine because Wolverine's been, he basically had a skeleton blown off, so he's doing some meditating, trying to heal. And she comes up there to talk about how she's so lonely and like, everything with Scott used to be so good and I feel so... And she's got her telekinetic powers back, which I didn't realize she had lost at this time. Jean should never lose her telekinetic powers. There was they did the opposite where she lost her telepathy for a while. I was like, that kind of makes sense, but... whatever, she feels all alive, but so here's the other emotional matrix. We've got depression with Hank, and she feels lonely. She's experiencing loneliness. Yeah, and so she's hoping to find some comfort in the arms of Logan, and I think that you get the impression that Cyclops is watching this at a distance.
One thing I forgot to mention last time when we were talking about the sort of the Cyclops Emma thing is just. If I'll just throw this out there, I don't know if this pays off at all, but if Emma could be considered some kind of trans narrative, then whatever's going on with Scott is just takes on a different layer. It's kind of interesting. He's just a square guy, really questioning his sexuality in that case. And I'm curious to see how that develops.
Neat. Yeah, and you were thinking that because of because they're like Lord Fanny.
Yes.
And because they enter into a diamond form, they have a secondary mutation kind of thing happening.
I don't know that it's going to pay off. I don't know that is the right interpretation to lay on it, but
yeah,
something's going on with Scott. I'll say that.
So we've got Hank reveals the thing, that it's figured out that but he hasn't quite figured it out, but he's figured out that Cassandra Nova is the exact twin of Professor X, and again, that's dumb. They clearly they look the same. Wolverine said they look the same, but we don't know we still don't know the full story. It was easy for me to climb inside his wonderful brain and take it over, and here she attacks Hank, because Hank's like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "Oh, it's me." And she does that to throw up on your soul, and she's attacking him with all these large words: nightmare, pain, child, badly. Bad, ugly, stupid. So it's just all these negative emotional.
She's the embodiment of bad vibes.
Yeah. She's full on, and that's going to be more and more revealed as the story goes on.
To build on that too, Cassandra's way of being, her persona in this, it's almost like a Roald Dahl villain. And that is something that Grant will play with from time to time, the Trunchbull is what I'm thinking of. If you've ever seen Matilda, but just this very bullying, demeaning presence.
Yeah, and that's definitely what she's up to. Remember when you're turning into a worm? Oh, I can't help but see your, and he's trying to fight her with. I like how he's I could turn the periodical table into a dirty nursery rhyme. That's very inventive and good stuff. Can't help noticing the litter tray, and you've got that really mean Cassandra Nova sadism at play. We didn't talk about this before, but like Cassandra Nova as a name, I don't think it makes any sense to me. Like Cassandra in mythology, because it's Cassandra Nova in this is like new Cassandra, but she has the power of prophecy that no one believes. Like that's the story, like the original Cassandra, and I don't get it. I don't know why Grant chose that name and made it the new Cassandra, because there's no prophecies being given. Or disbelieved. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. Maybe they'll explain it one day, but it's always kind of mystified me as a name.
Yeah, so the attack on Beast leads to her weakening him to a point where she can basically get Barnell to beat him halfway to death with a baseball bat, which is kind of a really grotesque end to the issue.
Yeah, no.
That's upsetting. I don't understand the lead in necessarily. Like he's got this titanium bat that he wants to give to Beast, and like I don't know if that.
Yeah, but it's clearly drawn as wood.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know either. It's very strange. Like because he wants to gift it. Yeah, that's why he's holding it. Oh, Mister, I really want to give you my bat. It's my prized possession. Maybe he was a baseball player or something. I don't know. It says something on it. I wonder if that has something to do with it. No, it says Barnell Beak, maybe. He autographed it? I don't know. Maybe Barnell's just an awkward guy. No, I think it says Rainmaker. Anyway. It's dumb. It just seems like, really... Because it could have been anything. It just could have been like a piece of lab equipment that he beats him up with, right?
It feels like it should be symbolic, but it's not. And it also feels like there's no chance that this guy could like Beast could fight this kid off like in a heartbeat, but maybe it's that he doesn't want to. Like maybe he just doesn't want to hurt him.
Well, he is bleeding through his nose already when he gets hit with the bat.
So Cassandra's like weak, like got him in a psychic crush.
I think so, yeah, because he's bleeding a lot already, even before the before the attack. But it does seem like the Beast would be able to deal with a skinny guy just kind of swinging a baseball bat at him. But either way, whatever. We've got... and then the Shi'ar Empire shows up. So Professor X is... he's got a relationship with...
Lilandra?
Lilandra, yeah. So he's going to go off on a honeymoon or whatever, And we were... Last time we talked, we said they'd never fucked around with the idea that someone would take over Professor X's brain and use it. But that's not true. Chris Claremont with Jim Lee had a story where in the Shi'ar Empire... someone kidnapped Professor X and put him in a machine to use his telepathy, and that was the Skrulls or whatever. So there's this Skrull Professor X out there. So even, not that this isn't new, but I just think that's an interesting repetition. And then we got the manifesto there. Yeah. So that was actually, I remember being very excited when the Shi'ar entered into it. I was like, oh, okay, we're going nerd specific here. Getting the whole effect.
Yeah, and the end of that issue too was nice. It was a nice cliffhanger, considering you had the artist switched on you, which was a little jarring, and then you got like an emotional end to the issue that left you on a cliffhanger to kind of move a little bit forward with the new artists,
and also to make you like go back and like look at the issue previous. You're like, what? Like that bait and switch that switch has been revealed for the first time. Like I don't remember realizing that's what had happened in issue 116, and so 117 came out, and I was like, blew my mind. So there's a lot of things that kind of papered over the switch. But then we get to issue, 118? This is when the inkers start proliferating. And again, we start off full page spread, Chuck Dixon style. And usually the Chuck Dixon you turn the page and it's a two-pager. Either like a 2-page widescreen or something with multiple panels. This kind of does that. But with Corday, he's gonna start doing the Chuck Dixon like he was doing with Quitely before. So this is school shooting shit. Before school shootings were a big deal. This one's still, I think, riffing on Columbine at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say.
And it's reminiscent of Warren Ellis in 1999 did that. He had a Hellblazer story called Shoot, where basically kids are, there's school shootings going on, and John Constantine comes in to try to like figure out what's going on, and it's got your Warren Ellis kind of nihilistic ending, but it got censored. It didn't get released, and Ellis he left Vertigo and Hellblazer for that reason. Here, Grant is able to do it in a major comic label, at this point. The taboo-ness of this is maybe a little lost on us nowadays in the world of ubiquitous school shootings in America, at the very least. So anyway, yeah, and it's anyone. What does he say? What's the first thing he say? Anybody else want to sneer at my comic book collection? It's very incel, very comic. Like, there was a period when nerds were still, and they still are like this. When people, I'm thinking of the time when those Marvel movies, they don't get 100%, and then all the nerds like fucking fly off the handle and go on like cyberbullying campaigns and making sure that the Rotten Tomatoes score is 100% because these fucking people, don't they understand this is the culture? It's not the same, of course, but something of that is here in this depiction of fandom, and he's connecting it to John Sublime, and also he's wearing that Magneto shirt. I don't think I noticed that way back when. Yeah,
which is weird considering he, I think, stole some mutants' eyes.
He did, yes. Yeah.
It's kind of like it's played a bit comedic. I mean, it is. The guy's speech is funny. Like, anyone else want to call me a geek? Then I suggest you read this awesome book before you even try. Which is like, you think I'm a geek? You should read this.
Yeah.
Very cool. And he says it's uncool is the new cool. And then, he's like, this guy was gay, but like, I didn't do it because he's gay. I did it because he's secretly a mutant.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, no, he was a stereotypical jock, and and like when I join the U-Men, there'll be my eyes. No girl in the hall will be safe from my X-ray. And then the SWAT team comes in
and does him. Yeah, this is kind of a Garth Ennis moment.
Yeah.
Where he just has that dumbfounded look with the hole in the head.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then I don't know, but it's played silent, and everybody's shocked, and then it's just like police with the smoking gun, and that speaks more than any sort of I don't know, lots of stuff going on here. I don't like I don't know. I guess we'll have more of a chance to talk about the U-Men later and like what's that about. But at this point, though, it is being depicted as an internet subculture. It is being depicted as highly associated with geek culture, and this speaks more to what you were saying last time, Chris, about the U-Men. Oh, and we get the 2-page spread here, though. That's good.
Of your X-Men.
Yeah.
Right after this.
Yeah, and then Emma's drawn much more. Her clothing makes much more sense with the trench coat and the actual bra thing. That makes more sense to me. Then what do we? Yeah, Jean's looking around the world at the various. More hilarity. She's looking at the
doing the RoboCop news kind of
thing. but she's reading their minds as like she's just flying around and looking at the this. She's thinking about killing her host, and he's thinking about a sexy lady milking.
I think it's
cow.
her. I think he's thinking about his co-host, like just sexualizing her.
Oh wow! Do you think she's like milking a cow for him in a bikini?
Well, in his fantasy, and she's like, this guy's a fucking pig.
Yeah.
And this is sort of like a moment of like a culture scan of like where mutants register in the. I think it's really important because I think a lot about what the U-Men end up being defined as is sort of an appropriation of struggle of authentic culture in this, like the sort of like the lifting of something for personal gain or profit, or in this case, just to take it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they're kind of giving that sense of like, like where they mentioned some kind of Olympic scandal where an Olympian refuses to be tested for the mutant gene, and just sort of like the mutants are on everybody's mind at this point.
Good one for today.
Yeah.
Exactly. Appropriate, yeah.
Yeah, and typical that they, he's like the Olympic athlete who refused a DNA test. Like, there is a lack of specificity in all this talk, which you don't register immediately looking at it, but you just kind of fill in the blanks, like the on that Simpsons thing where they have the robo replacements for the shock jocks or whatever, and they're like, look at those clowns in Congress, looks like the clowns have done it again, and they're like, oh, how does he keep up on the news? I like that Jean Grey's eating Fritos or whatever. She's just eating chips. I think that's a nice touch, just while she's doing stuff. I think that simple things like that make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
brings it down to earth.
I like the contrast here of like the pinkish of her psychic ability, then like leading over to Logan. He's like just like dark. It's night. He's on his motorcycle and just like on his mission.
Yeah, and I think when you guys were mentioning earlier the emotional like aspects at play, the sort of the depression, the loneliness. It's funny to think that Logan's used as like a tool of level-headedness.
It's true. Yeah. He's good.
As like Zen, literal Zen level-headedness.
Yeah.
Which is funny because his emotional state's usually a hinge point for a lot of people's X-Men tales, So to remove that in that way, it's kind of an odd like juxtaposition.
He's got great moments in this.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like, it pays off like decades of character development on Wolverine. Like, they always play him as the samurai, and they can imbued like fighting his animal urges or whatever. And yeah, more. I don't know how common anything like that was prior to Morrison taking over, but I think it was a. I'm not going to say inspired, but it was a logical choice for Wolverine in this. And it does work. Like, Wolverine is able to be in a world where like. He doesn't feel depression. He doesn't feel loneliness. He's wrestled with this constant. I mean, he has heartache, I suppose. He said he got a bucket load of heartache, and what ought to be post-traumatic stress from the extreme pain and violence he's experienced. But like he's come to grips with it. Like that was always at the center of him. And if Professor Xavier's dream is going to have any legitimacy, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, like. Wolverine's going to have to reform, so that way you get the sense that Xavier knows what he's doing, and the world that he can create is actually possible. I wonder if that's like subliminally one of the things that's at play.
Well, I mean, also for Logan's just general character development, it's important for Wolverine to like be told in a story where he succeeds at controlling his emotions. Why wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Like with that willpower and that life experience and that amount of time taken and with Professor Xavier and things, like it's only logical to at least drop one story in there where he succeeds at it.
Mm-hmm. But that makes the slip so much better. Like when he like sees them trying to dissect Angel on that table, and then it's like you don't even see the fight. It's just like he's standing there, then he's covered in blood. It's like, whoa, sorry, just went red there for a second, and it's perfect. Yeah. Because these guys are not a threat. The U-Men are not a threat to him. So, like, there's such emotional impact in just, like, skipping over it.
Yeah, and the way it's drawn, actually, it's a cliffhanger at the end of the issue. Like, he opens up the back of the thing, and the U-Men in their really creepy scuba diver spacesuit outfits. They've got her on a table, and it's almost like a rape scene. And, I mean, it practically is. And there's the pause, son of a, and then, like in the rain, and like that's a cool image, and that's one of the better Wolverine things that you're ever going to get. I think it's only ruined by the fact that the X-Men outfits at this time look fucking stupid. Mm-hmm. But I'll forego that as a complaint. That's fine. I know why they did it, because they're meant to look like the yellow and black costumes of like 1963, like the original X-Men costumes are meant to be evoked by all of this, which is very fitting for these stories where like it's let's update the 1960s. But anyway, it is cool when he does flash and then kills those guys, and then he's also very calm again when Angel. We'll talk about who Angel is some more in a second, but she sprays acid on his hand. And he very calmly is just like, I'm looking for an alkali, to put the acid out. That's nice. Again, it's a situation where like he's so kind to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an inversion of the usual like dynamic where he's like got this sort of like the teenage like protege who's kind of helping out, but like she's sort of trashy and like just like a real asshole to him the whole time.
Yeah, and usually he wants them to go away.
Yeah.
But in this, like, he's the one trying to, like,
He's
all
gotta,
right.
like, yeah, be nice about it.
Yeah. So then the protesters are all there, whatever, and Jean and Emma and everybody go out there to confront them. And there is getting back to we were reading. Well, I was reading that thing about child psychology, child experimental psychology, and there was this notion, even young children, when presented with individuals who have, like in stories, who have exceptional powers, teleportation, or like the ability to levitate. There's a surprise, like children expect, I don't need to get into the specifics of why they think this is the case, but according to the experiment, children are surprised when those who lack superior powers are in positions of social dominance. And so there's a natural one, I guess, if one accepts these experiments, then I guess the argument is that, there's something within human nature which naturally distrusts or fears the social dominance of something of a greater power than itself. Which I think honestly is just reasonable. I don't know, like, is it just because it's human nature, or is it simply because, like, if someone has a big stick, they're able to beat someone with a smaller stick, But yeah, what's being expressed by these protesters is like, isn't it true that you're trying to take over the world, Aren't you guys weapons?
Yeah, but then that starts off that way, but then like fucking U-men come later.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all the protests continue to escalate throughout this.
Yeah. And you get, like, we're going to find out later on that it's partly, and I'm not quite sure they do a good job of explaining that it's actually partly Cassandra Nova. I don't know if that's actually required. For Cassandra Nova to be, like, behind
Turning up the psychic pressure.
Yeah.
But she is, again, she's like giving those bad vibes.
Yeah, but then like Emma basically disperses the whole crowd.
Yeah.
With like a horrific use of mutant powers that's like not a great PR look, according to Jean.
Yeah. Well, because she makes them all like orgasm and feeling pretty good. You just made me. And they all fall on the ground. They're all like, it's not illustrated very well, but they ultimately, they're. I think they might have been illustrated differently, perhaps having some sort of orgy or something. But they just kind of fall down and die. I push their bliss buttons, Gene. They'll wake up utterly ashamed of themselves. I think that Professor Xavier isn't even here right now. It's Gray Summers. This is my husband Scott. Do you see any weapons here? We save humans. We save lives, human as well as mutant. That's all we've ever done. Our job is to educate and protect. And I thought about how. Again, I'm going to reference Full Metal Jacket again. It's they're giving that speech to the soldiers, and they're like, okay, it's not search and destroy anymore. It's sweep and clear. Remember? Okay, sweep and clear. And I just found like that. It felt like that when I read that. I was like, they're just, that's Morrison's like, oh, we're just going to rebrand it a little bit. They're doing some sweep and clear, educate and protect. I think there's another. They do something like that again later. It's all part of Morrison's attempt to, like, again, reframe the X-Men in this. Yeah. Anyway, so they disperse the protesters. Magneto's become a T-shirt, like a Che Guevara at this point. I think that's a nice touch. Because at this point he's like a huge, terrorist who, he has a point.
Yeah, it's always nice to get the, like, Magneto martyr effect cooking. Yeah.
And they're dealing with Beast, who's, we're kind of in a holding pattern, sort of. But everybody's starting to be, they've got everyone has the flu, even Logan. And so we're starting to, I don't think they do a good job of depicting, Corday's going to do a good job of depicting someone who doesn't feel well, but not for, like, 5 months from now.
I'm really charmed with the idea that she's like playing CNN for Beast because she's hoping it'll like his rage at CNN will bring him out of the coma.
Right.
Whenever somebody mentions CNN, I think about that.
Is that what they said? They
Yeah.
specifically call it CNN, or do
Yeah.
they just say cable news?
No, she says CNN.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get Gene's asking Scott about him and Emma. And I like this response. It's just, I'm not going to read your mind. You didn't sleep with Emma when you were both in Hong Kong? No, I didn't. She kept me awake all night. That's a funny way of talking to a telepath and giving a non-answer. And then, then we get the introduction of Angel. So in the original pitch, Chris, I think that you weren't around. I was reading from Morrison's original manifesto, and he had original plan to kill off Rogue and replace Rogue with a new Rogue, kind of more similar to the movies. I think this is that idea. Instead of killing Angel, he was like, "Oh, I'll just introduce a new Angel," and like one that isn't a billionaire who had to hide their wings or whatever. This, she's Latino, something. I don't know if that's clear.
Yeah, she's shown coming from like a poor family.
Yeah,
so literally like the literal opposite of Warren Worthington and
Warren Worthington the third. Yeah,
That's true.
Also from she's not only is she poor, she's being abused, and she's like like you say, she's from a marginalized race, and it's just like everything that Angel is not.
Yeah.
I love that when like we're introduced to her, like the father is flipping out and like I think he hits her, and
Yeah, he does.
like the mom's trying to just like appease him, being like, no, it's not even your kid, like and it's such a fucked up thing where to just be like a relief to that. Oh, like don't worry, I fucked somebody else, and like that's somebody else's kid, and like you're too pure to produce a mutant offspring. Like what a horrible way to think about life.
Yeah, but it makes sense within the context.
Yeah.
Some parents would be like this in a world like that. Like they well, we know that. To the individuals who like beat their child because they're gay or trans or whatever. And yeah, that's it. Like I don't want to press too hard on saying this is like this book engages in sort of the social realism, but it's nice to see these. One thing that's always missing from the X-Men comics is like this gritty relevance to the actual world that we live in. It always gestures towards it. It always like kind of like, oh, we got a world where prejudice is a bad thing. The only time we ever, now that I think about it, like I think Iceman's parents were shitty to him, and then they came around. I think that's my recollection of like anyone who had problems with their parents. Otherwise, they were always like so supportive, or maybe concerned, or they sent their like. Kitty Pryde got sent to the X-Men, but I didn't get the impression that their parents thought she was disgusting.
No,
their parents like brought them there like they were going away to university.
yeah, like boarding schools are the worst.
Yeah. And then we get John Sublime, who kind of a great villain. What a weird way to approach John. They just make an appointment with him.
Yeah.
We have evidence that you've been colluding with the Chinese government in order to like organ steal from children and so on and so forth. Can you make an appointment for 3 p.m. In your boardroom? Sure. Okay. Yeah. And he's a grifter. Like a corporate grifter in a shiny suit. Later on, you probably noticed, but he has a toupee.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
It flies off his head. It's because Corday draws it later. So, what do you think about this exchange?
Oh, I think this one is really important because like you're getting a sense of how slimy he is. You're getting the I think he says some inherently contradictory things. Like he says, "Why can't we all share the future and become the super beings that we're all meant to be?" Which has an odd echo of Grant's own sort of like like his pop culture books and things like that.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think there may be a little bit of like tongue-in-cheek parody there, but also another thing he says is, "Can't we all be an elite?" Which is inherently self-contradictory because no, of course not. You can't have an elite if other people can be it. So it's really just about, and again, this is that sort of appropriation theme. I think really at the core of it, it's that idea of Magneto on a T-shirt, like in a dark way. Like now that Magneto's dead, you can take that image, you can profit off of it, you can make it whatever you want it to be, and like take that aura of that for yourself, and that's exactly what John Sublime is up to.
Yeah, he's got like a serial killer vibe, and he was like, I was 30 and president of a successful pharmaceutical business before I recognized my own tendencies and those of others. Yeah, because like it's, we've already talked about this like a lot last time, but you know it is the metaphor of it's a very strong metaphor for appropriation. It's like, you know, we're going to take this culture and all of its qualities and all of these people and their exceptional this, that, and the other thing, and we're literally going to graft it onto ourselves and make it our own in order to to be elite in some sense. Although there's real power in this. Like, it's not like it's not just like taking a T-shirt or a style or something like that. It's like within the world of the X-Men, it's much different. You know, you're going to get X-ray eyes, or you're going to get a telepathic brain.
Yeah, and like his goal is to like make the school an organ farm for his activities. I think the like what is a neat innovation in this character is that I think it recognizes the idea, and even like it's a fascist tendency a little bit. Like the he says to them, it's that thing of like attacking the minority with what you want to do to them or what you will do to them, but he says like, oh, you really are the more aggressive species, which echoes that idea that Cassandra brings up, like the the Homo sapiens just like slaughtering Neanderthals. There is sometimes an envy at the center of that hatred that goes hand in hand with prejudice, and I think that's what this character allows Grant to get out of it.
Yeah, the phrase is, goes back to not ancient anti-Semitism, but like, the Jew, what is it? Like the Jew cries out as it strikes you, something like that, like, so they're always playing the victim even as they're victimizing you. And that, like, and the people often point out, but that's what the right is doing.
Yeah.
And Johnny Sublime in this instance is no different. And yeah, so it's definitely there.
This is the first time too that you get any sense of competence out of the U-Men, because this leader is dangerous, and this is the first time you see a success in like a twisted experiment in the form of Martha.
Yeah.
The weird brain that he's like manipulating and he successfully attacks Emma and Cyclops, which is no small feat, because they're aggressive, high-powered mutants, and they are fucking confident. Like, they walked in there knowing they could probably roast 50 or 60 U-Men with no effort. So they're not concerned. So they're taken aback by this attack and this experiment, this horrific brain that he's like, I don't know, seemingly removed from a mutant or found and like twisted with U-Men experiments. This is a higher level of competence than you've seen from the U-Men, because before this they're just like perverts in rubber suits. So this is now dangerous. This is a weird issue now. All of a sudden, like that's sort of what I saw in this like little sequence anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Cool, because I guess like otherwise up until this point they've been, Wolverine's encountered them, and I don't know, they are kind of goofy because they're trying to capture Angel and they're fucking it up. Yeah. So the Martha or whatever, we get back to the news report. Runaway mutant Martha Johansson left a note written in her own luminous blood, and like there's the luminous blood in the syringes holding her brain, but it's also reminiscent of the psychic residue of Jean's thoughts. And she had a telepathic brain that they've managed to control. And she's going to feature prominently right through to the end of the series as well. And features, if I remember correctly, plays an important role. No, because we're also getting introduced to the Midwich Cuckoos or whatever, like the twin girls of Emma's. Anyway, so they ambush Cyclops and Emma, and Wolverine, son of a bitch, and then we cut to Igor Corday. And it's a little rough. Now you'll notice that Igor Corday pencils and inks his own shit. He's a full production fella, and good for him for that. But here we got a Chuck Dixon opening. We got the full page spread, and then a 2-page image. And I meant to comment on this germ-free generation. There's a couple of things to think about in that. The U-Men are obviously they're sealed from. They're dressed like Sea Guy, like space age, like Eternauts. And they've got these scalpel Gatling guns, but they've sealed themselves off from the universe, so they have no germs. They're a generation of, who are literally germ-free. And then germ cells are sex cells, like sperm and egg. And so there's no sperm and egg in this generation as well. And I guess they're hoping to, I don't know. It doesn't really go that far. I was thinking that it would make a lot more sense once I looked up the word germ and thought about all the different things it would mean. But anyway, meet Martha Johansson. Martha's a metal fan. That's a great opening. And yeah, they get captured. I don't know if there's there is actually something important here. U-Man Bell has mutant eye implants which give him passable microscopic sight. He identified a flaw in your molecular structure. That's going to get paid off later when Emma's shattered due to that flaw in her structure. I also wanted to comment on the really intense sexuality of, the sexual violence of this. There's that full page 4-panel image where, Johnny Sublime's, grabbing her by the diamond hair and playing with her lip and stuff. Colored very nicely, but I was like, whoa, that's actually far more aggressive than I remembered.
Yeah, he says he wants to shatter her and make her into some kinky chandelier. It's really fucking aggressive.
Yeah, that whole sequence and then the subsequent how he's able to capture them, and then also that's the secondary thing that happens is that mention that U-Men had those successful implants. See, because this is between Martha and that guy. These experiments are happening and they're working.
Right.
So
okay.
That's fucking disturbing. So now this has traction now. This horror idea. Before it was goofy, and now it's just shifted just slightly.
Yeah, surgery, cut his head off, and there's a scene where he's trying to because Cyclops is paralyzed, and so Sublime's he's trying to fuck around with Cyclops' visor, and he accidentally sets it off, and Cyclops accidentally shoots the dick off of some sort of Adonis statue in the background. Oh my goodness. It's nice. It's a funny little joke, because it's like in Prometheus. I guess it's in Prometheus where David is the cyborg David is released, but I mean he's meant to be. This statue is reminiscent of a Renaissance ideal man or whatever, and this CEO has surrounded himself with all these elements of culture, but he wants to sort of transcend it somehow. It's not the same, but it's kind of the same vibes, or it's in the same ballpark of vibes.
So the same ballpark of the Goonies breaking the dick off the David.
I guess so. And then I took this. So there's this thing where we open up and Wolverine hasn't killed them all yet. Actually, I forgot it. He doesn't kill them right away. After that, isn't that?
There's one guy left.
He goes right after that. Yeah, they're standing there and they shot him with a bunch of shrapnel. So I don't know. Actually, the cliffhanger that we got doesn't get paid off. It's he put away the claws, let himself get shot with a bunch of shrapnel, and then does a Groucho Marx. You're joking, right, bub? Right? With his cigar, and then he fucking kills them. That's a little different than what we were promised, but it's still an awesome scene.
Yeah, it's still. I mean, they just cheated and sort of extended the cool scene into another book.
Yeah.
Gave you a sampler of it for the end of a book, and then carried it a long way.
Yeah. Which is fine. Not the first time Morrison's going to lie to us for a narrative effect.
That's so fucking hard. No, with a tank full of oxygen.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. when he drops the cigar on them.
Yeah.
I don't know how he managed to do that and get Angel out of there, but you know.
I think
do?
she's already out, and then he like turns and then drops the cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't hurt you anymore. Yeah, it's like, and it's another thing. Wolverine. He's got the Jubilee, and he's got the Shadow Cat, and he's got I guess it's just Jubilee and Shadow Cat at this point. I like that with Wolverine.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's a good role for him, and so to have him dealing with Angel, but like was already said, like this one, they're very antagonistic, but the lessons he's teaching are very like, welcome to the grown-up world, darling. You got a long way to go, and you can't make it on your own. Like that simple. You're going to need some cooperation and teamwork. You need a family. And yeah, the guy at the truck stop.
Because they get like it's a hard. The new Angel is like, I get that they're doing like we talked about it, the opposite of Angel, sort of the juxtaposition or whatever.
Yeah.
But like then you're, in addition to making her marginalized and making her abused by her parents and making her hard luck and poor, you're also giving her insect wings and making her fucking barf up acid like the fucking Fly, so you're like a Jeff Goldblum kind of like this fucking like horror mutant. It's a little much for me. Like, I don't know that all that's fucking necessary. I don't think it gave anything to the narrative. It's just fucking like that's what I was saying right when we started. There's a lot of grotesquerie, and it continues throughout these books, and that I don't know if it's violent or if it's gross. It's like very like Garbage Pail Kids to me. I don't fucking know what we're doing here at that point. It's just like, just so I can have a hillbilly go, get the fuck out of my establishment, and fire shotguns, and like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, well, he's like, I had to kill my own boy because he was a mutant.
Yeah, great. I would cut all this out.
Yeah.
This should have made the chopping floor.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Well, the simple, like, the prejudice of this world needs to be depicted somehow, and so I guess that's one way of doing it. And then the grotesquerie of mutation in this, like, I think that is welcome. I think there's lots of different ways of doing it. I could have done without Bubba and his shotgun, but whatever. But he lets them go. He's like, I something really hard happened to me. My prejudice led me to like kill my own child. And my wife died in childbirth because my kid was covered in thorns. It's very like that's a rough story. I don't know if he had to kill his kid. I'll take that, but that's still a rough story. He chose to kill his kid. Actually, no. It wasn't the thorns so much as the poison. I see. Okay, like poison kid. I broke my own boy's neck. Yeah. Okay. There we go. So anyway, but her throwing up and stuff and like going through an actual chrysalis and being like Jeff Goldblum, like that, Morrison wants to talk about the ugliness of mutation, like the mucus of it, like the guts and the surgery and the blood.
And he does that with Beak and Martha and like the blob skeleton kid.
Yeah.
Everything as you sort of go forward.
Yeah.
Which I guess fine, whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's very fair because like that is evolution is like, what if this thing happened? Did it work out? Cool, then that thing can survive. But like, it's not. There's not really a plan to it. It's just like a variance happens, and it's not like it's not necessarily going to be graceful or beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes it is. And with the original X-Men, it's Professor Xavier's sort of prejudice operating at that point. Like collecting the pretty mutants, the ones that are powerful.
That's interesting.
Oh, you're back to Ugly John's commentary at the very beginning.
Yeah, no, I think that there's something to it. Like, he wanted to create like a superhero force that everybody understood, and
propaganda value of having like just like not the weird looking ones.
Yeah, no, I do think that that's part of it. And one of the things that Morrison wants to do is like break out of it. And later on, spoilers, when Professor X afterwards kind of returns, they think about how they were too afraid to out themselves as mutants. There's so much fear in Xavier that prevented him from doing things. And one of the things that Cassandra Nova does, and what these early books do, is just like break through all that to try to get to something new and to make the X-Men like a viable and interesting property again. Yeah. So then we're still trying to solve the mystery of Beak, and I just find this very. So let's go. Professor X goes into the spaceship, right? Okay. And then the X-Men find an unconscious Beast in the basement in Professor X's lab, and Beak is in a comatose state, and they don't for 1 second think that Professor X had anything to do with that? Like, or wonder about anything. They're just like, oh, Beast, when are you going to wake up and tell us what happened?
Yeah, and they're like, Barnell, maybe we can check your mind, too, to see if so... Oh, no, who the fuck do you think interfered with his mind?
Yeah. Oh, I see someone interfere with your mind.
No shit.
Yeah.
You know, you thought they just beat each other to death in the basement for fucking fun?
Yeah. This is when she goes into his mind, though, psychically, and she's talking like Jean is doing. It's okay. I won't come any further into your mind than you want to. There. I know. It's all right. Stop shouting. I won't hurt. That's very human. You know, like get away from me. But you don't like. You just see his sad, milky eyes floating in the water. You know, instead of any of his words, and it comes off very well. But then it's revealed right there. Charles made you do it, and then like ignore for like.
Yeah.
I guess they have to deal with the human.
Yeah.
They have to deal with the human first.
Yeah, Jean's having a bad day here.
Yeah. The human showed up, and they're going to take over. Like these guys are ballsy, just coming in with their like human powers, and they're going to take the castle
Yeah, none of them have any real powers. They talked about their powers, but all they have are those stupid razor blade guns.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you're going to butcher a bunch of school children out in front of the school? I mean, like, PR-wise, they're not doing themselves any favors anyway, but one guy's got, like, pervert lightning hands that he barfs into his mask and accidentally uses on his buddy, and then the rest of them just get absolutely roasted alive by Jean.
I think they cover some of that when we cut to the human. Yeah, it's very early on. It's like they're like... One of the human has Buzzsaw, and they've got Cyclops and Emma on the table, and they're like, you want me to cut this guy's head off? Is this a joke? And they're like, you think? This is your human initiation, Sawyer. You've sealed yourself in perfection and left the soil of the fallen world behind. These are post-human rules. And the guy's like, what does he say? Something like, I'm far more interested in the philosophy of... let me just get this over with. And he's like, basically, you got to get blood in your spacesuit. Which is a really cool line. I got to get blood on your spacesuit. I think about that. And then they start getting taken apart because Emma wakes up. But by now we're on issue 120, and it's again Igor Corday doing it all by himself. And frankly, we didn't talk about this. I think this is actually very good. It's jarring. It's not the same as Frank Quitely. It's not the same as Van Skeever at all, but I think for what it is, I think it's very good.
I honestly think he was caught, which is honestly a really heads up choice. It felt like he's copying Van Skeever a little bit on aesthetics. Mm-hmm. Trying to make it more smooth or maybe not as noticeable to the audience, and he succeeded. Mm-hmm. I think, because there's a real smooth transition between these two. There are differences, and actually I think Igor Corday is a little bit better, mm-hmm. but really overall, he went with the same look, but I'd rather that than you try to copy Quitely. Yeah. So, I mean, kudos to him for making a judgment call when he did at the time, or whoever wanted him to do this, or I don't know what the specifics behind it would be, but it looks fucking gorgeous, and they pulled it off, and like I said too, initially... back in the day, getting a Grant Morrison, Frank Quitely book, was like the fucking holy grail of comics mm-hmm. that you could hold in your hand. It's a really stylistic thing. I mean, I would think it would be akin to Spawn #1 for aesthetic purposes. Just getting that fucking moment, that magic fucking moment where you got to have the best comics artist in the world in your hands, those fucking Image #1s and shit, just mm-hmm. that feeling, mm-hmm. and that's what Frank fucking Quitely is. And then to have it switch to this is so good. Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
Like at the time, it was worse. So if that's not going to be like if you can cast that aside, you're really going to enjoy these books now.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's still a shame though. Like the fundamental flaw in if I had microscopic eyes and I was looking for a flaw in Grant Morrison's X-Men books, like I'll say it. I'm sure I'll say it multiple times in this. Just the inconsistency of art and the abysmal levels at which Igor Corday is going to fall in an effort to like maintain this shit show. It's unfortunate to say the least, particularly in the first arc, the first 12 issues or whatever it was. Like those are on paper, those are amazing comics, but
it's true. And in a perfect world, I would have rather they took fucking 5 years to do it.
Yeah. And
just put out a big book.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get that the serialized comics world is different than that, but there you have it.
So we open up with the Chuck Dixon special again. We got the 1 page,
Splash.
2 page,
Double
boom,
splash.
Yeah, good to go. And Wolverine's had enough of Angel, and he's just gonna fucking leave her at the diner. I'm your only chance of making it through the rest of the day alive. Oh, I guess he doesn't leave her, but he's just like, I fucking hate you. And
she's kind of stupid.
Yeah, at this point she's getting dumb. Like she's throwing milkshakes in his face or whatever, and like for what did he do? Who knows what he said, right? He probably just said something about how she's a fucking bitch. I don't think he deserved it.
Yeah, she got kicked out of a restaurant, barfed acid everywhere, almost got murdered. It's like
it's the second attempt to buy her lunch.
You could cut the fucking guy a little bit of slack and just eat your fucking lunch and not be a moron. I'm not sure what we're going for here, but we're not anyway. Angel, we're not developing a likable character here that's going to carry forward through the books in any meaningful way.
That's true. Angel never develops. Maybe on this run we'll see something develop for Angel, but I don't think so. I think she just kind of has some character traits that are depicted, and that's it.
It's like a mutant where like you said, he's using it as like almost like a thematic tool to show what he wants the state of mutation to be at this time.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's all she's used for, which is whatever. I mean,
yeah, she'll play a very minor role in the plan to deal with Cassandra in the next half of this arc, but very minor. Like she's not. Anyway, so the U-Men are attacking the school. I noticed that Ultimates #1 is being advertised at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and man, what an exciting time.
Yeah, that's boner inspiring.
Yeah,
right there.
This picture of Thor in the rain, just like coming down with his hammer. Anyway, and yeah, Ultimate X-Men 12 is out at this time. Don't bet on Gambit. Mark Millar wrote Gambit?
Oh.
Do not recall that.
Where's the...
No, when do you think... I don't think I can do it now.
I thought the impression was coming. I don't know. I was worried there for a second.
Oh, mon ami. And so, yeah, they use their psychic powers to both trick and deal telekinetically and telepathically with the U-Men. And as this is all happening, Jean Grey's slowly developing... Like, she's getting her confidence back, and she's getting the Phoenix Force back, which is not usually a good sign. And she basically does a... carry? She does a carry.
Yeah.
In a way.
Threatens to, like, pull them apart molecule by molecule.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting about that is at the end, she manifests in the most badly illustrated version of the Phoenix Force you're ever going to get. This could have been a cool image that Van Skeever would have knocked out of the fucking park, I think. But what you going to do? And she says, like, remember all those negative feelings I had about Scott? They're gone now. I feel great. And so she's been purified of all that loneliness and all that stuff. She's reintegrating, beating back the bad vibes, and that'll kind of play in later. I think the Phoenix Force. I don't know what to make of the Phoenix Force in this, but it plays in like a central role on a go-forward basis. It just kind of hangs in the background, and then at the end certainly manifests.
And that's very close to when Beast arrives on the scene with the corpse of Cassandra Nova.
Yeah,
Help, Professor Xavier is trapped in this old woman's head.
Yeah.
And Michael Jackson's with him. I'm not sure what the fuck
Absolutely.
is Igor Corday doing,
Yeah.
but I don't appreciate it.
That's hilarious. Yeah. Wow. I didn't notice that. Yeah, Michael Jackson's part of it. Well, you heard it here first.
Yeah, he's on the X-Men.
Yeah.
Something, too, that I did not catch initially.
Mm-hmm.
Beast pulls Cassandra out of the morgue. They got a fucking morgue in the school. That's weird. Like
There's a lot.
That danger room is doing. Like, that's a lot.
There's a lot. There's a lot of fucking carcasses at the X-Mansion. I can tell you that.
He's crawling around. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah, I'm just trying to find the image where he does he.
I think it's a previous issue.
It's the previous
issue. He's getting up out of bed.
Yeah, and,
and why is she all dripping wet? Did
here.
they keep her in like a vat of jelly?
Well, they sort of did, but it's not consistent. Yeah, he's walking over to who else did they have? John Doe. And it's a morgue. Yeah, they have a fucking morgue at the X-Mansion. Yeah, I missed that too. I guess it's search and rescue though, or what? It's educate and protect. That's what the X-Men are about. So, there is we get the first. We already talked about the Midwich cuckoos or whatever, and I like that they're like boring. As they're psychically attacking and whatnot. Like, there's the arrogance of youth in all of this. Yeah, he's right. You'll live on in us, transubstantiated in the third species, born ahead of your time, awaiting a germ-free future. And they're like, boring. And it's very youth. You know, like, all these ideas, all this stuff that you're doing on the internet is fucking boring and stupid and weird.
They're fun. Like, just the Village of the Damned quality to these 5 twins. I forget. I don't think that much ever really happens with them. But
a ton happens.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they're central. Like, I keep saying things are central, but but you know, the stuff being put on the board is being put on the board. So Cyclops and Emma escape, and they beat the shit out of John Sublime. I like that what Emma says, because her nose is broken, is like, "You made me look like a bloody heavyweight boxer." Yeah, and Martha basically makes him commit suicide as her revenge, and that's nice. Martha gets a character arc in this. You know, she was a runaway, she was kidnapped, her brain was harvested, and she got revenge all in one three issue storyline.
John Sublime's dead here, correct?
Well, he falls. Okay, so this is where we're going to have some problems, because the character of Sublime is going to show up in the final story, and I might as well say this now. Later on, like in the next 6 issues or whatever, Beast is going to say that the human technology is based off of the Sentinel tech that Cassandra Nova released. I don't know what that connection. Like, what the fuck is the connection? Like, what and why does John Sublime clearly fall to his death? Who is Sublime later? I don't know. I don't know if these puzzles are going to be put together and explained, but yeah, he's clearly dead. Like, he was a human who fell to his.
He had a toupee on, so he didn't have anything extraordinary going for him.
Yeah, he must have had some sort of implants, though. Like, he was I don't know. Who knows?
Unless it's been all about the exploitation, like, just reaping the profit of hooking other people up with this stuff.
Well, he's running the grift, right?
Yeah.
Like, so he doesn't get high on his own supply. I guess that's possible, but yeah. All right, so this brings us to New X-Men, number 121, Grant Morrison with Frank Quitely. Enough said. This is a silent issue. This one was published with the bits of script, which was also put into the collection. So that was nice. A rare moment when you get Morrison's script, and frankly, I keep saying frankly when I'm talking about Frank Quitely. It's kind of plain. Like, and it doesn't actually leave a lot of room for Frank. Like, it leaves a lot for Frank to invent. But I would have thought, okay, so it opens up with this Xavier Institute at that odd angle. And if you would have asked me a month ago whether or not Frank Quitely picked that angle, I would have said, yeah, of course he did. Morrison probably just told him to write Xavier Institute, and But he says here, the sign is seen at a weird oblique angle, and I know that's fine. That's not a full-on description of what this angle is, but there's more direction, and Quietly is much more faithful to a script than I would have thought. I guess is one of the things I learned looking at it. And this was part of a stunt where all the Marvel comics this month were silent issues, and most of them were terrible.
And this was some sort of editorial thing where they were like, "We have the best and brightest."
Yeah, it's silent issues all around. Everybody loves a silent issue where your comic money goes the least distance. What's most notable at this is Frank Quitely's inking his own stuff here. This is the first time we've seen, to my knowledge, and definitely in the new X-Men run, that Frank Quitely is inking his own work. He's not coloring it. Hi-Fi Design's coloring it, but I think this art, when it's very, very good, the inking is a contributing factor to it, and ironically, when it's very, very bad, same thing. I think that's something like that's going on. It feels cartoonier than you usually get.
Yeah, Emma's hot in this one.
Emma is, yeah, she's a sexy lady.
She's confident.
Yeah,
you can pick up the confidence.
Yeah, I like when she takes a drink before going into Professor X's
little
line.
snoot before you get on the job. That's a nice touch right there.
Well, because it's gonna. Okay, so the whole comic, I'm sure everybody listening to this has read it, but it's basically like Emma and Jean team up to go inside Cassandra Nova's mind to rescue Professor X, or to sort of unlock Professor X's mind because he's trapped inside there. And so they journey in. And yeah, there's a lot being communicated through facial expression and acting and kind of thing. Like you get Wolverine, Jean gives Cyclops like a kiss on the cheek. Emma is upset about it. She's constantly through this comic like really annoyed with Jean. Wolverine's given the side eye to that. He's much shorter. He's short.
Oh, don't start.
Yep. But yeah, all their emotional relationships are being established through body acting. Body. What's the word I'm looking for? Body. What do people do with their bodies?
Body language.
Body language. Thank you. They're speaking with their bodies. Yeah, and they go inside, and frankly, this. Nothing really much happens, and I know there's a sense that you want to unlock the code of all of this, and what does it all mean, but it's all in the script, right? And I found myself with very little to say other than this is kind of cool.
Yeah, it looks like there were, like you say, there was a little bit of facial expression stuff, for relationship development, but really there was just a lot of psychedelic imagery. There wasn't. They were sort of battling through what feels like a floor is lava obstacle course in order to get the final secret, which is and yeah, all the artwork's cool. Sort of Emma's used sort of cannon fodder on these weird booby trap things, and then Jean's allowed to sort of move forward to the puzzle. Where she finds out she gets to swim with the sperms.
Yeah, the whole thing is and so this comic cheats in that it's supposed to be completely wordless, but at the end, just to be on the safe side, just to make sure the audience actually followed what happened, even though it was pretty fucking clear. She describes, Professor X tried to kill his twin sister while they were both still in the womb. We ought to talk. I feel that this whole story really never needed to happen at all. All you need to do is have that sentence. This just slows everything down. The psychic rescue is the editorial gave Morrison a thing that he had to do, and he did it, and him and Quietly pulled it off quite well. But it just grinds.
Yeah, but it's not totally necessary. I think the thing that maybe I will take away most from this is the Charles Xavier's head looking like a giant testicle, and then immediately cutting to the image of the sperm swimming in that snow globe. That was on purpose.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, no, and he's got the big balls head.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Everything is a
Psychic
giant
little-
testicle. It's
Yeah.
just like living in a ball sack.
Yeah. And then, you see the development of the kids or whatever, and the way that Professor X is depicted in this, like, awakening early with that little sinister smile, until the final words, actually, I remember thinking, and still thinking, looking at it now, like, that's Cassandra Nova waking up, and wanting to murder Professor X. Or maybe it was. Actually, no, because she punches him in... Like, why is the fetus punching him in the face?
Yeah.
Like, this is absurd.
Well,
This is
isn't this really the trap that Cassandra Nova has put Professor X in? Like, I don't even think we can really trust that this version of events is true.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with a no. Okay, so the miscarriage down the stairs, I was reminded of Edith from The Invisibles, and her falling down the stairs and having the child sort of abort onto the ground. Morrison, I don't know how often they come to this image, but they've come to it twice in relatively early succession. And again, kind of spoilers, it's like when Cassandra Nova later on, she's going to be like, I clung to a sewer for 30 years. Like, what do you do with that information? Like, this miscarriage gets flushed down the toilet after this. And yeah, there's something of, I don't know, maybe in 1963, like, that's what you did. Like, who knows? But I just thought that was, that's kind of what's being depicted here. And yeah, this where no one can see what we're talking about when Jean Grey like floats up from the crumbled tower, and like she just looks like a Barbie doll.
Yeah, like a Bratz doll or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I know all about, all right?
Yeah. And yeah.
Then they cheat again.
Yeah. Oh, Emma, thanks for the help. But yeah, as if you couldn't tell. You could tell from the body language that she's just kind of like, fucking thanks a lot. Thanks for nothing. I don't know. Emma's ineffectualness in this story also kind of really bugs me. Like,
It's confusing.
She kicks a door. She turns into a diamond and kicks a door and then gets attacked by it. Like, I don't understand her decision-making process. She's there to help Jean Grey liberate Professor X, and all she wants to do is, like, hang back in a doorway and fight doors?
I don't know. I took it as she was sort of like doing cannon fodder fighting booby traps, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what's happening at all.
I don't know.
Because over here, like Jean's clearly, again, emotional body language is very good here. She's like, come in, help me, and she's like sticking her tongue out.
The thing that I came to, or at least that justified the dynamic in my mind, was that the Phoenix powers are amping up, so it's that much easier for her in this space, and it's sort of another manifestation of how accelerated she is over Emma at this moment. Yeah,
I suppose so, and she's jealous of it. But the Phoenix Force still doesn't stop her, enable her to enter the tower. Like
True.
The bridge gets destroyed below her, and she has to swim to shore. Kind of huff it, and she does use her telekinetic powers there. I love how telekinesis is depicted by Frank Quitely. It's always, like, the physics of it is displayed always very well. We've seen that in Jupiter's Legacy, when, with the boats floating or whatever. A boat floating in the air could just look fucking dumb, but when Quitely draws it, it looks like a boat floating in the air. And I said, which is dumb. It's dumb to say out loud, but that's tough to do. And then I don't know. I was really let down by this issue. Like, I really like this issue. I like to read it. There's nothing to think about in it, though, and its efforts to be cryptic and enigmatic fall flat for me. I think when I was younger, I know for certain when I was younger, I was like, oh, if I understood the occult symbolism of all this, I'd be like, oh, there'd be levels to. And I really don't think there are.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think, and whatever you may have been wondering about is like I already said, easily answered by the script. Where it's just like, just draw a bunch of things that remind you of childhood, and the primal primal youth and things like that. I don't know why Grant Morrison's talking like that, and he doesn't actually sound like that.
Yeah, also it'd be annoying to get a script like that. You're like, thanks, asshole.
Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of like a anticlimactic way to sort of end the thing, but I guess...
Which is apt for the
Yeah.
anticlimactic issue.
Yeah. In that collection you have, it does go up to... in the early collection, you've got one of those tiny ones, right, James? Like the... yeah, and it goes to issue 121. Is it?
It does go, yeah.
Yeah.
And then features the scripting at the end.
Yeah. So they collected it like this, and like again, it's exciting. It is actually exciting. This idea that it was at the time. It was exciting that final thing. Professor X tried to kill his twin sister. Well, we are getting some. What is the fundamental relationship between Cassandra Nova and Professor X? Like why did she take him over? Why does she hate him so much? Why are they twins? Like something is actually explained here. And as a cliffhanger into like the rest of the conclusion, it was hot fire. This hit a lot. Yeah, it just hit a lot better when it came out originally. But now it's kind of like I know what it is. I know where it's going to end, and I kind of take it for granted.
Granted.
Yeah. No, frankly, I take it for granted.
Yeah.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.